multiplying functions. If f of x and g of x define functions, then f g of x is the same as f of x times g of x. So this symbol means you have two functions that you need to multiply them. F g of x is the same as f of x times g of x. Now this format also is true if I had f plus g of x. If f times g of x means f of x times g of x, means you take these two functions and multiply them together, what do you think this symbol would mean? Just add them, right? That means you have two functions that you need to add them. That's all it means. It's like you have two expressions you need to add. Does that make sense? So if I change this to minus, you can guess what that means, right? That means you have two functions that you have to, what do you do with them? Subtract them. But if I change the symbol to f over g of x, what would that mean? That means you have two functions, f of x, you have to divide them. So you really need to get familiar with these forms here. So if I'm talking about f plus g of x, that means you take those two functions, you add them up. F minus g of x means you take those two functions, you subtract them. F over g of x means you divide them. So here means you multiply them. So this for multiplication, that's where you multiply them. The domain of the product function is the intersection of the domains of p of x and g of x. So we're going to look at some of these in actual examples. Let's take a look at this. If f of x is given to me as 3x plus 1 and g of x is given to me as 2x minus 5, we want to find fg of x and fg of 2. So fg of x is just established, means we take those two functions as given to me, f of x and g of x, and just simply multiply them together. So that's all it means, is just you have two functions that ask you to multiply. Just another way of showing that. So you have 3x plus 1 times 2x minus 5. We already learned how to multiply these. You can multiply, use a FOIL method, or just simply multiply term by term and combine like terms to get to this result. The middle term would add up to minus 13x. Now, if I have fg of 2, if I already know what fg of x is, that's all I have to do is just substitute for each x in this result 2. So I would take fg of x, which I already found, and I want to find fg of 2, means you replace for every x 2 in this function. That's what we're doing. Now another way to do this would be if I wanted to know what fg of 2 means, that is the same as f of 2 times g of 2. You could do that too if you wanted to. Now what is f of 2? If to find f of 2, I need to know what f of x is. I have to go back to my f function. See, they're giving it to me at f of x is equal to 3x plus 1. So f of 2 would be you substitute for each x 2 in f function. That's what it means. So what do I get here? 2 times 3 would be equal to 6 plus 1 is equal to 7. Okay, so this would be equal to 7. Now what g of 2 means? To find g of 2, I need to go back to my g function. Well, let's see what g function is. G of x is given to me as 2x minus 5. To find g of 2, I have to substitute for each x in g function 2. So we do that. If I do that, what do I get? 2 times 2 is equal to 4. 4 minus 5 is equal to negative 1. So this would be equal to negative 1. So if I multiply negative 1 times 7, what do I get? Negative 7, same result as I got previously. Does that make sense? So to find fg of 2, I can either find f of 2 and g of 2 separately, and then multiply them together, knowing what f of x and g of x are. Or find fg of x and then substitute for each x 2, and that would give you the same results.